All right, everyone, welcome to our next episode. We have Selina, how do you say Galanis? Is that how you say
Galanis. Galanis.
Galanis? Okay, very cool. You are a master coach at Workman Success, and you coach one of the highest producing teams in California. And all around, you're just an amazing person. Like I follow you, even though we don't talk as much. I'm like, man, I need to learn. I need to get closer to you because you know what you're doing. And I feel like something undervalued right now in this world is just buying experience, I guess. I guess that's a great way to put it. The reason why you pay for coaching is because someone has gone through trials, tribulations for 15, 20, 30 years. They've already put together the blueprint. They've already messed up plenty of times, but they figured it out. So
That's a
hey,
good way to put it.
let's buy those 20 years for however much it costs a month, and let's take a shortcut instead of trying to figure it out. And I've grown past the trying to figure out phase, so I'm all about who knows what's going on, how do I get close to them, and what do I need to know so that way I don't have to spend 20 years figuring it out. So either way, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that mindset behind it. It's like we don't have to make the same mistakes, right? We can always go to someone who said, hey, maybe you don't have to do it the same way I did it. Maybe it could be a little easier for someone else. you know.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree with that. So, so tell me, when did you get started in real estate? How did you get started in real estate?
It was a long, long time ago. So, never thought real estate would be where I landed. It was never the intention, honestly. I was going to college for psychology, criminal psychology, actually. That was the goal. And I was working in the Florida Panhandle and going to school there, and a hurricane came along and destroyed pretty much that entire area. And my best friend's dad owned the biggest real estate company down there at the time. And I had lost my job that I was working at, and he offered me a job. He worked in property management and real estate and sales. And that was kind of the beginning. I started out in property management, and I was like, oh, I just need a job. And I thought, oh, this is just short term. Well, that was 26, almost 27 years ago. So
Oh,
and it just didn't stop from there. I started in property management, that did that for many, many years, and then moved into corporate real estate. For a long time, I worked for big Fortune 10 companies like AT&T and Verizon, doing site selection. So imagine being a buyer's agent, but for a corporation and doing it for multiple states. I said that to someone the other day. They were like, oh, I don't want to drive that far. It's 20 minutes further than I like to drive. And I was like, I used to cover 7 states. Like I was on a plane to a different state every day of the week. I
yeah.
was like 20 minutes. I was like, I used to be in Ohio on Tuesday and Florida on Wednesday. So looking for properties. So moved on to corporate, then left there and moved into residential. And for about 7 years, I helped run the most successful real estate team in Westchester County, New York. We did about 150 transactions and 80 to 90 million in sales volume up there in Westchester County. It's just north of Manhattan. Before leaving there and moving to South Carolina for a little while. And then now I help Rick Jiha run his team in the Bay Area of California.
Wow. That's quite a resume for such like it's almost like, man, that's a lifetime of achievements, and you've done it in only 26 years, right? I feel like that's a
Feels like a long, long time.
time goes quick. Time goes quick. I'm coming up on, I think, where am I at? I'm at my 15-year high
Nice.
school reunion. Like that's where I'm at. So I'm like,
Awesome.
the heck, it's going super, super fast. I joined the Marines right out of high school, and I was like, there's no way I'd do that because it'd take 20 years of my life, and that's my entire life. But once you start living and you start experiencing things, you're like, okay, 5 years isn't that long, especially if I'm building something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's awesome. So you went property management, corporate, and then residential.
Mm-hmm.
So Why would you get out of, I don't have no idea about corporate, honestly. I have no idea about corporate real estate. So why would you get out of that? It sounds really intriguing. Is it the
Yeah.
travel?
No, the travel was pretty tough. And two of my kids, they're adults now, but back then they were younger.
Uh,
And just being in a different state all the time was really, really hard. I mean, I was just, the only days I was home was Mondays. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I was in a different place. And it was really, really hard on the kids. And I was one of the only women doing what I did back then. It was mostly men,
yeah,
and it was just really, I think, really hard on them. And I was really enjoying it. I prided myself. I was a master negotiator. That was what I was really, really good at. I negotiated terminations, big, huge, massive terminations. When AT&T, actually before it was AT&T, it was Singular Wireless, right? And then they merged. And one of the things I was involved in was deciding which stores needed to close, which ones needed to stay open, and then having to negotiate terminations all across the country for all of those stores that needed to happen, which was fascinating,
yeah,
and fun to do. But it was just a lot. It was a lot for me as a mom to have to manage with little ones. So, and at the time I was just getting married, and my husband had two children from his previous marriage, and I had two children from mine. And one of my husband's children was severely disabled, and we lost nursing care at the time. And we decided it was more important for me to stay home and help out with the family than it was for me to continue down that path. So
yeah.
we made that switch.
No, that's very noble, and I love that. I think family's everything. And as I get older, especially, I realize I'm like, all right, well, money isn't everything. There's so many things that are worth more, and family is definitely one of them. Family and just your health is super important, right? Like someone asked me the other day, they're like, how much if you had to lose a limb for $5 million, would you do it? I'm like, no, I wouldn't even do it for $1 billion. No, I don't want to lose any of my limbs.
Yeah.
that that's how, I'm like, I wouldn't trade any of my limbs for any amount of money, right? I wouldn't give. And then time is even worth more than that, I think, as well, because I couldn't put a price on time either. So there's a lot of things more important than time to me, so I get that. I love hearing about your background, and it sounds like you're a master negotiator, but there's something else there. It sounds like you are very, very intuitive and very good at systems, or great at systems. So is there like KPIs that you track, or is there certain algorithms that you follow that make it successful? Like, how do you determine the key performance indicators that are going to really move the needle in these different aspects? Because you were in property management, then you were corporate, then you're residential, then you're, coaching teams or leading teams and making sure that teams are successful. How are you so good at identifying things that move the needle the most?
That's a great question. So, okay, let me just start with the fact that I'm a really big nerd. Okay. So always have been, always have been. So that's part of it. Well, one, there's a couple of things about me. So I don't like to do anything more than once that can't be systematized. So if I've done it twice, like there's got to be a system around it, because I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. Two, anything that can track return on investment, right? So if I'm going to spend time or money on it, I want to know that it's worth it. So I'm always looking for that. And it's one of the things that most agents or people in business just don't track. So I'm always looking at that. One of the biggest things I think that realtors don't track, and it's something that I certainly spend a lot of time on in coaching, is return on investment for lead sources. And we forget, I'll be honest, we just forget. If a lead comes in, we forget to ask them, how did you hear about me? And sometimes we'll even just keep it very generic, and they'll say, oh, it was a postcard. Well, I need you to be more specific. Which postcard? Like which one? Or they'll say, I saw a sign. Which sign? It's kind of important. That lead source starts to really tell us where we should be spending our money or where we should be spending our time. And that's how we start to know exactly where that return on investment comes. And we just get really generic with it. And then we don't really know what that looks like. And whenever I was running that big team in New York, every quarter I could see how many leads we'd closed, right? How many transactions. And I was looking very specifically to determine what the lead sources were, and then making decisions on whether or not we were going to spend any money on particular, advertising and whatnot, and whether or not it determined if it had closed or we had any impending. And then I was deciding whether or not we were going to try that anymore, right? Like, oh, nothing's happening, we're cutting that, right? Yep. And most agents won't get that granular. Right. I have a great story. A team I was coaching for quite some time in Texas, and oh, my guy loved KV Core, and he just loved running all the Facebook ads on it. And every time we get on the coaching call, he'd be like, Selina, look how many Facebook leads I have. It's just amazing. And he was generating a ton of Facebook leads. Right. And I'm like, that is great. That's just fantastic. Can you pull up your closed transaction tracker for me? Right. Because we use that with Workman. Yep. And he pull it up 2 years. I said, pull up the last 2 years. And I said, great. How many leads did we close from Facebook ads? 0. 0 leads. And I was like, great. You're great at running the ads. You're great at getting the leads in. You're terrible at converting them. Tell me how much money you spent on running those ads. He'd spent over $3,000. You haven't closed any. So your return on investment is nothing. Nothing. You're running them. You're not converting any of them. We're not running any more ads. We're cutting it right now. Right. So those are the kinds of things that when we systematize and we're actually keeping track of where the lead sources are coming from, and we're paying attention to it, and then we're looking at it every single quarter, and we're saying, hey, great, terrific. You have leads coming in, but you're doing nothing with them, or maybe you kind of stink at it. That's sometimes a hard pill to swallow. Right? But you have to get so particular with it. Right. So even with Rick right now, we have we systematized his lead listing intake. So just before this call, he was there, he got some new listing leads coming in, and now he has a form he has to fill out when he takes a new listing, and it looks like a Google form. I use Cognito form. And when he fills it out, the very first question is, where did you get this lead? Right. So now I have it from day one, exactly where that listing came from. Right. It's the very first question, because I don't ever want them to forget where it came from. Because when I first took over and I tried to go back and find out where all of his leads came from, listings or buy side, nobody remembered. I had no idea where his business was coming from for the last several years. Right. So those kinds of things, when we start asking those questions right away and we systematize it, you put it in there, then there's never any question. You start really realizing what you're good at. Well, if you don't track it, then you never know. Right. So those are the kinds of things I focus on.
Yeah, I love it. Actually, it's so funny. I actually taught a class on pillars, or how to crush a pillar and how to scale, because I am in the same kind of mindset that I think 90 days is a good time frame to really test your pillars. Maybe if you want to give it an extra quarter or two, but outside of that, I think 90 days is good because you can establish a baseline on, okay, what was my conversation to appointment ratio? What's my conversation to closing ratio, or conversation to a escrow ratio, right? Or because these are things that I like to track. I like conversation to appointment. That is my number one. Like,
Love
we
it.
gotta know what this is, so that we know if we're wasting time or not. And I tell agents, I'm like, hey guys, like, just take 90 days, because there's an industry average, right? Maybe the industry average is 63 conversations for an expired listing. It maybe takes 63 conversations to that one appointment, and maybe it takes you 2 appointments to grab the listing. So great. It's going to take you 126 conversations to get one listing from expired. But, maybe that's the industry average, but maybe your average is 75 conversations to get one, or whatever, whatever it is. But at least, like, we have a baseline, but we can't have a baseline in a week or in a month or 2. Like, I think you at least need a quarter. And then once you've taken a quarter, then we can, all right, track it daily, track it weekly, monthly, and figure out, okay, is my conversion rate low? Okay, well, let's work on your skill. Or your results low? Okay, maybe your output wasn't as high as you thought it would be, So maybe the environment, the accountability, or the commitment's not in place. So we definitely got to, work on one of these. And then let's figure out, what can we automate, delegate, or eliminate it as part of your process inside this pillar, so that we can really hyper focus, make it super efficient, and then eventually outsource that or hire a VA, an ISA, or maybe a team member who can, maybe it's a Zillow or some type of internet lead gen, or maybe it's open houses. So that way we can take that process, put somebody to manage it or run it, and then start really, compounding our pillars together. And now we start growing in scale, right? It's no more just, my biggest thing is like, why are we winging it every day? When you wing it, you literally have to start from zero every day. Like,
Yes.
stop it. Stop winging it. Figure out a systematized approach to attack whatever you're doing, so that way you can get better at it and eventually hand it off. Because for me, this is something that's been on my heart like a lot lately. It's been most real estate coaches, the reason that they're in business is to teach you how to sell, but they don't teach you how to get out of the business. They don't help you with the exit strategy. So you're always looking at, a short-term income versus long-term income. Yeah, short-term is great, right? Short-term results, yeah, you get a $10,000, $20,000 check, fantastic. But what happens after that? You only get paid once. You don't get paid next year. So you're never building up this long-term residual income. So that's why the coaches are like, work on your skills, work on role play, work on this. But you got to start working on building another vehicle that will get you out of the business. Because I know myself, I don't have ambitions to negotiate repairs, when I turn 80 years old or whatever it is, right?
Plan.
If you never set up plans for your short-term actions, you can't have your long-term actions have success, because you're so stuck in the short-term movement. So that's just how I think, though. I mean, that's
No, I love that. I love it. I think the first thing you were talking about with like tracking those numbers, that's always something that I think it's hard, like, especially when we're coaching a team, right? So I'll speak to that first, is when, you're familiar with daily success habits, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so the team members are always like, oh, I don't want somebody to micromanage me. And I'm like, I don't want to micromanage you either. I don't want to babysit, And I'm like, your numbers tell me a story, right? The story tells me that if you are making that many calls and you're not actually having any conversations, real conversations, they hang up with you, then we need to coach you on what you're saying, right? So now I know what to work with you on. If you're having these calls and you're not setting any appointments, right, well, then we need to talk about that. If you're going on appointments and you're not actually getting any listings, then we need to work on the actual listing appointment, right? Everything tells me a story. And then if you were really great at it before and your numbers were great, and then all of a sudden they drop, then something's happened to your mindset, right? Something's going on and I need to have that conversation. And I'm like, all it does is give me information to help you. That's literally it. I'm like, I don't want to micromanage you either. It's just telling me exactly what I need to work with you on. And, I have a great friend that knows exactly how many no's it takes for him to get to a yes. And that's how he thinks of his daily success numbers. He's like, oh, I am 12 no's away from a yes. When he's making his calls, that's what he does. He's like, oh, it's a no. Awesome. And he's like, and that's how he thinks about it, because he knows his numbers so well that he's like, all right, that was a no, no big deal. Actually, I know it takes me 26 no's to get to a yes. I'm just going to keep going. So, trying to get people to understand that daily success habits and knowing those numbers is just going to, and gamifying it almost to be like, how can I incrementally improve? Like, oh, if it was 26, now I'm going to get to 24, whatever that is, right? You're improving that. As far as the other, that's an interesting concept, right? With transitioning and feeling like you are going to replace yourself.
Yep.
Right. So this is an interesting mix as a coach, right? Because we have people come to us all the time that say, I don't want to be in the business anymore. Right. I want to hire people to come in and I want other people to do this so that I don't have to be in the business anymore. Very interesting. And then you start bringing people in and then they don't want to give up the business. Oh, they won't do the work like I do. Very interesting. It happens quite a bit, right? So I bring that up because ego starts to get in the way. Oh, it's hard. Now, I know some people who've done it exceptionally well. And so you have to trust. And so if you haven't read 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and you want to start a team, that better be the first book you read. Okay, so trust is like right at the very bottom. So
Yeah.
trusting and realizing that that all comes with training, and that all comes with believing that there are people who can represent you just like you would represent yourself, right? And teaching them that way. But unless you want to be showing houses when you're 80,
No,
like, right?
no desire.
Yeah.
I've already personally I probably missed out on a couple 100,000 in lessons from handing deals off, but I'm like, this is all part of the game. Come on, you're gonna fail, you're gonna suck. My team members are gonna grow though, and I'm gonna figure out from that pain. I'm like, okay, great. We sucked at there. Here was an opportunity. Here's how we fix this opportunity. But if I don't go through that loss of a client or whatever it is, I don't get to grow from it and put a system in place. Because I know a lot of people think that yeah, I can just put a perfect system in place and it'll just run by itself. But no, you got to grow through the chaos.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think that's the hang up is people don't want to grow through the chaos and they're so
Fail forward. You're going to fail forward.
got to fail forward 100%. Something actually I wanted to come back to was we were talking about the numbers. So it gamifying, right? I actually shared this yesterday and it was whatever pillar you're going after for the next quarter or next whatever quarters, get a group that's going at the same pillar. They don't have to be the same marketplace. Let's meet daily or weekly. Let's figure out what our numbers are. All right, guys. Hey, I'm at 20, you're at 22, this person's at 32. And it's just like, oh, I got to beat this person. They're at 22, I got to get to 21. And then if there's just that power of I think the power of the mastermind is amazing. And having that accountability group, that really just pushes you so much.
It's, it's interesting to see that we find that when people are lead generating together, right? It's that even if they're on Zoom and they're on silent, right? You're all kind of quiet, but then like you throw it in and you're like putting it in the chat that I got another one or whatever it is. We're definitely finding that that really kind of pushes everybody up, right? We used to do it all together and we would call it power hour and we were all in the same room, right? And there's just a level of energy that comes around it. And then now, obviously, because not as many people are doing it in the office and we're cloud-based, doing it just on Zoom starts to create another level of energy because there is accountability. You can see that somebody's lead generating at the same time. If you're throwing the chat up on the side and everybody's like, oh, got another one, right? There's a level of enthusiasm that starts to grow. Everybody can see they've either got their headsets on or whatever they're doing. And it's a healthy competition, right? It's a healthy competition. And you're feeling like, and some people will actually take it off of mute. So let's say you have a newbie, right? Somebody new into real estate, and they ask if they could take it off of mute or if one person would be agreeable to taking it off of mute so that they can hear. There's a lot of value in hearing a more experienced agent on the phone lead generating for a newbie to hear that, right? So those agreements can be made early on too. Hey, would someone who's more experienced mind taking themselves off of mute so that somebody who's newer can hear what that conversation sounds like, right? So good opportunities for mentorship and guidance in that respect, have it on speaker or something like that. And all that does is help build everybody else up. Right? It's just a win-win all the way around. And then everybody's learning and kind of building off of that. And I think, just that level of accountability that's, like I said, healthy competition is like, oh, what were your numbers this week? What were your numbers this week? Right? And everybody kind of hopefully is incrementally getting better every day.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We actually have a couple in our group that does that. So I've been blessed with that. And I mean, the last few years, we kind of grew up through that as well. Wait, hold on. Well, I was about to say something and I totally blanked. What was I going to tell you? I cannot think of it now.
We were talking lead generation.
Okay, I know what. All right, so accountability. We're on topic. So I think it's super important that we know our numbers. Yes. I think the other part to it that I see for successful agents is having the culture around, making the phone calls together. When you have that type of accountability in place where it's like, don't worry about messing up. Like, let's just go do it together versus I'm going to judge you because it took you 75 people to get one appointment. Just having that culture in place where everybody's just encouraging, And it's like, hey, like, let's focus on the output. It's not, yes, the outcome, we will get the outcome. Don't worry about it. But let's really, really focus on how do we do a lot of inputs and how do we do the action a lot. I think it's just really focusing on the action. And that's where I see a lot of agents that are, winning at a high level. It's they're focused on the output. It's not about, you know, the results. Yeah, the results are going to come, but as a byproduct of you consistently day in, day out doing those actions.
Yeah, we talk a lot about it at Workman, that if you can just focus on the activity and stop thinking about the result will just happen.
Yep.
Yeah, it just think about the activities. And if whether that's calling, whether it's door knocking, whatever it is, and you stop focusing on, well, how many results am I getting? Just keep doing the activities. Just keep doing the activities. Naturally, what's going to happen is by doing more activities, you're getting better activities. So then naturally the results will just get better. It's like, just keep thinking through it. And like, yes, we're all going to suck in the beginning. Everybody sucks in the, just embrace the suck. Okay. Like, just embrace the suck in the beginning. Everybody stinks in the beginning. And I'm like, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, what's the worst case scenario? They say no, or they hang up. You'll never see or meet them or talk to them again. It's okay. Like, it's all right. There's nothing bad that's going to happen. Just keep calling, right? This is why when we get a newbie, right, we give them 100 old leads to call, typically is what I would normally do. I give them 100 from the pond. That's what we call it. We call it the pond, and I make them go fish, right? And I say, go fish the pond. Here's 100 leads. Call, try to have a conversation, update their information in the CRM, right? And if you get one from it, yay, that's a win. And if you stink at it, that's okay too. At least you're not scared to call 100 people right now, right? That's the goal, is like 100 people. And then when they're done, I give them 100 more. And then by the time I give them another 100 more, they're feeling really good about making calls. They've been hung up on a million times. They're feeling okay. And by that time, the results are starting to happen, right? It's just natural. So I think getting everybody into the swing of that, it's still miraculous to me after all this time that people don't want to call. Like, it's like miraculous to me. I'm like, and like, probably our biggest hang up right now, and I don't know, Richard, if this is still like happening for you guys, but no one still wants to talk to their top 50 or their sphere of influence right now.
Oh my God. It's so, like literally you should have just came to my class yesterday. So I use this example, and I said it's super, super small. I was like, okay, guys, if we had 100 people that is our SOI right now, obviously we know 7% is going to move. So guess who is digging in your backyard right now? Zillow, Realtor.com, and let's just say the average commission is 10K. Well, guess what? 70,000 just walked out of your backyard. It's inside your house now, but you're allowing Zillow to walk in, sneak in through the window, and they're taking it. Not just that, all of your 100 people, they all know. Brian Buffini said it. Everybody knows 3 people who's going to move this year. So that's another 300 opportunities for you.
Fun.
And yeah, guess who's getting it? Zillow, Realtor.com, or other agents who are okay with picking up the phone and calling and setting up relationships, right? Because if you're not having happy hours, client appreciation events, or doing something to stay in touch, you are going to lose, and people are going to take that money. Like, it's so crazy to me that people are allowing people to mine in their backyard for their stuff. They already have it in their backyard. So it's just crazy to me. I don't get it myself, but I mean, I did come up with a great system though for some people. Now, this is a really good hack. If you have an iPhone, if you don't have an iPhone, I don't know. I'm sure that Galaxies and Androids can do it. On my phone, great tool is called Shortcuts. I don't know if you have it.
I use them.
With Shortcuts, you can automate things. So one of my automations on it is I text my entire SOI personally through my phone. Obviously, I only send one message, and it just changes the first name. And some months it's, hey, I'm looking for a landscaper. Do you know anyone? Just so I can start the conversation. Or, hey, Selina, I'm having a happy hour on Thursday at 4. Would you like to come? You know anybody that would like to come? And literally, I'm sending out 100 messages, all one text. I only had to make the list once. Shortcut, yeah. And I can send out a text message and a picture or a link to something, right? Like it's all automated. So now that's how I text my agents. That's how I text my SOI, because everybody wants to feel special. So it's not a group check, it's literally one by one, but it looks like I'm taking a lot of effort, but I'm not. It's just literally I do one thing because I'm all about automation. I'm like, how can my efforts, right? How can that when I input one thing, how can it turn into 50? Like
50.
that's really where my mindset's at now. It's like, all right, can I get rewarded from this action multiple times?
Yeah.
That's why like doing one deal, I'm like, like I don't get excited about it because I know
Yeah.
that it ends after that. It's like, all right, well, I closed the house. I mean,
Well,
it's
you wake up every day unemployed. That's what we have. We
wake up
say.
on the board. That's exactly right. So now, I mean, that's another reason I came to EXP because it's like, well, I could compound those effects.
Right.
And when you figure out, okay, how much does it cost to, how much is it going to cost me to live, or how much do I want to net monthly, passively? And my number is, $30,000, which it's not a crazy number. However, there's different vehicles that were going to take me there, right? Maybe there's real estate, maybe I have a donut shop. I don't know. There's a million different vehicles I could choose. However, what I do know is me personally doing a deal doesn't do that.
Nope.
No matter what, I can sell 100 this year, 200. I can't win that way. So, I mean, obviously, if I did the real estate and bought rentals route, okay, it's going to take me a while. Best case scenario, I get $500 a house. It's going to take me 60 houses.
Right.
What does the capital investment look like for that?
Yeah.
It's probably substantial. However, on the EXP side, it's like, all right, well, in my organization, I know how many cappers I need, right? I know to do 30K, I need it's 36 times 3, so it's 112. I need 112 cappers in my organization, spread throughout. I don't care where they're at, and I will net $30,000 a month on average, right? Obviously, there's going to be a lot more other filler agents. However, what's the difference, right? That there's no timeline difference. It doesn't matter if it takes me 10 years, 20 years, 2 years, 2 months. It doesn't matter. The world doesn't care about that. And those are things that I think about. So I'm like, all right, so what would need to happen for what environment do I need to have in place to attract this many agents? What does the retention look like? What does the culture look like? What does my group look like, right? And there's no capital investment. I don't have to pay anything for this to happen. Like that's what excites me because I know I have a vehicle that can get me to my 30K passive. I don't have to worry about any bills monthly. So it's just that's an exciting thing that I'm experiencing now. Like, okay,
Awesome.
I need to go after that. And then I can, drip that into other vehicles. But I would just love other realtors as well to just see that as well. Like see that vision. How much is it going to cost you to retire? Okay. Well, 20 houses. Okay, how much is 20 houses going to cost you? It's going to cost me a couple million. All right. Well, how long is it going to take you to do that? Because it's just the activity. It's just okay. I need to get into a house 20 times. So it's 20 activities, but how long does it take you to get one rep?
Yeah.
And for us, it's like, all right, well, 96 agents,
Yeah.
right? Or I go bring 30, someone else brings 30, someone else brings 30, and
Well,
that's
it's
the cool thing.
strategic. Yeah. You're looking at the strategic plan of it, and most people don't think that far in advance when they're looking at it that way. And I think much like you do. Usually whenever I'm talking to someone and they're going through something or they're building out their business plan or their strategic plan, I'm thinking about it the same way. Someone will come to me and they'll say, I'll ask them to build out their plan of what they want. And so here's a great example. I had a young lady, she was a new agent. And, I always ask them to build dreams as well, right? So not just what you want to build as far as like how much income you need to make, but if you could put something really magical on there that you would want for yourself, what would be on that business plan and that strategic plan? And lovely young lady. And she came and she said, oh, I'd really love to take my family to France. And I said, she's like, it's a big dream, lofty goal. I don't know when we'd be able to do it, but I'd love to be able to do that. And I said, great. Okay. How long are we going for? Because that's all it said was trip to France. And I said, well, you don't really have any details here. And I said, so we don't really know how much we're saving for. Like, how are we going to reach that goal? And she said, oh, I don't really know. And I said, well, how long do you think you want to go for? She's like, I guess a week. I was like, oh, well, that's not long enough. So take you a whole day to get there and a whole day to get back. I was like, so I'm writing notes and I was like, so 14 days. And I was like, are we flying coach? Are we flying first class? And she was like, well, I don't know. I was like, we're going first class. If we're going first class. So
Yeah.
I'm like, how many people are in the family? She's like 5. So I'm writing all these notes down. I was like, do we know where we're staying? She's like, no. And I was like, okay. So I said, here's the assignment. Because when you set goals like this, and you don't have enough information, you actually don't know how much money you need to reach this goal. And I said, so I'm coaching you again in 2 weeks. You're going to go home. You're going to do the research on what it would cost to get first class tickets for 5 people. You're going to figure out where you want to stay in Paris. Is it an Airbnb? Is it a hotel? What are we doing? Are you going to dinner? Are you cooking at home? Like, what is all of this going to cost? You're going to come back to me. You're going to give me the total. I had a general idea in my head of what it was all going to cost because I've been. And so she comes back and she gives me the amount. And I said, great. Oh, and she's like, a little panicky over the number, right? She's like, oh, this is kind of a lot of money. And I said, great. What's your average price point in your market? I knew what it was. I coached them. I said, here's your average price point. Okay, you're earning 3% as a buyer's agent. It's 50-50 split with your team. Da, 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 da. And she's like, yeah. I was like, great. And she's like, okay. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do this. And I was like, well, I just did the math. You just need to sell 3 extra houses this year. You think you could sell 3 extra houses? And she was like, what? I was like, it's just 3. I'm thinking you could probably sell 3 extra houses. Let's go to Paris.
Yeah.
And I mean, she hadn't done the math, right? So for
Yep.
me, that's what I do. When someone comes to me and they're like, I'm in trouble, or this is that, or I need to pay off this bill or whatever, I was like, okay, let's do the math. Like, what do we need to do? Same thing. Like, how many people do we need to bring into our organization? How many houses do we need to sell? What does this look like? I mean, I literally break it down and I'm like, it's really not that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all we have to do is sell. Oh, so let's just sell 2 houses. We'll be fine. Like, yes. Like it's systems. It's like literally like you can look at it. And I mean, that's the beauty of the business that we're in.
Yeah.
Right. Very few people have that. When you work in a corporate job or whatever, you can't literally walk up to your boss and say, I need an extra $15,000. They're not going to say yes. We have this beautiful opportunity where we could say, I'm in trouble. Something's happened. I can go sell 2 more houses. I could really dig in. I could make a few more calls. I could get 2 more listings. I could sell 2 more houses and it will be okay. Right. That's the beauty of what we have here. And to have direct control over that by just digging in a little bit more. And rev share. I mean, that opportunity that so many other people do not, that can absolutely change your entire life.
Literally.
Your entire life, right? By just saying, but I will say you do have to systematize that.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something that just magically happens. I mean, I know that Rick and I work our behinds off on a daily basis to make that work and to make it, so that you're there and you're talking to people and you're helping people and you're supporting people and you're doing all of those things. So there is definitely time investment in that and systems in place to make all of that work as well.
Yeah, definitely a lot to put in there. But I mean, if you're a giving and caring person, you're people first. Like, I think it makes it easier because, like, naturally, you want to help others. You want to help others. And I heard somebody say this. They're like, once you retire, you're making, I don't know, let's say $10 million a year, like whatever that number is, like what do you do there? Like when you're financially free, what happens?
Yeah.
What's the purpose? It's you help others. Like really, it's to pull the next person up and give them the roadmap, help them with guidance. I mean, you can charge for your time if you want to. It's not really up to you, but it's just really just helping others. So that's what I love about the rev share opportunity, because I only need 96 yeses, and I don't have to get all the yeses myself. I can bring 12. I don't care. Like, whatever it is. It's just, who are my 96 yeses, right? And that's what I want to figure out, and just going after it and providing a lot of value, just a lot of value. And that's exciting because I know that vehicle will get me to my destination faster than, the traditional rental income, right? Of course, yeah, my team can get me to 30K very quickly. That's not hard at all. but I'm talking about something that doesn't require like literally it's super low maintenance and I get to do what I love. Like I love this conversations with other agents, coaching, guidance, just helping people figure out and getting clear on what is that intention you have? Like what's the dream that you want to happen and just really writing out a plan and helping people, become a better version of themselves. Like I think if everyone just helped the next person up and help that next person see a bigger version that maybe they don't see yet, I think the world would be definitely just a better place, I think overall. So I get excited about it. So
I love that. I think that's what makes coaching pretty amazing, and I think that's probably been the most exciting part of coaching for me is like not everybody that comes to us, or especially me for coaching, comes and says, I want to earn more. Like that's been something that's been interesting for me. A lot of my folks come because they want something back, whether it be time or time with their families, or they grew something big and it was too big. And they were like, I need to get something back in my life. I'm passionate about this other thing and I've not been able to spend any time or energy doing it. And this is not what I thought it was going to be. So it's kind of fascinating. Definitely, I have some people that are like, no, I want to do 3 times the amount of business I was doing. I definitely have that too. But I've had quite a few that said, wow, I grew something really big. But I actually want my life back. Right. Like, that's been very interesting, and it's been near and dear to my heart. And I share this just because it was so impactful for me. So I'm 46 right now. And at 42, I had a heart attack in the midst of running that in New York. And so that was super impactful because I had let that completely encompass my life and just take over. And I drove an hour and a half each way to get to work in the middle of New York traffic. And it was just living, eating, and breathing that job all day, every day, nights and weekends and everything. And realizing that that was all I was anymore. Right. And so when I switched gears and moved down to South Carolina, I moved down to a tiny little island with no cars, no nothing. We drove around in golf carts all day. Like I changed my whole life because I was like, I'm 42. I'm too young for this. I can't, I have kids. I can't die. So like too soon. But that was really opening my eyes up as a coach too. Like that made me really realize like you could work yourself to death. Like you can, I realized it and I was like, why do that?
Yeah.
There's not, like you said, like, could you lose a limb? Is that worth it?
No.
And realizing that there's a better way, right? There's a better way.
Yeah. And I think for me, like at least how I perceive it, it's really dialing back your short-term actions daily and trading them for long-term action, long-term motivated actions, right? Like even if we took this to health, yeah, I want to eat freaking 20 wings right now from Wingstop. Is it going to be great? Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Long term, it's not, right? Same thing with money. Man, I want to go, I don't know, put money in the slot machine or whatever it is. But is it going to be good long term? No, it's not. Short term, yeah, I'm going to have some excitement, but like how can I dedicate, maybe let's call it the 80-20 principle. How do I take 80% of my actions and dedicate them into long-term purposes? So that way, in the long run, I'm going to have something built up to where I don't have to continue to keep doing these short-term actions that keep, I got to go get the next one, And like, it's great because real estate, we can create our income. Like literally whatever you want to earn, you can make multi-million dollars in real estate. But until you start deciding, okay, I want long-term returns, you're not going to have them. And I think that especially at least our industry, I just see too many coaches wrapped around, hey, keep doing these short-term actions. But I think that there should be some sort of pivot that's like, hey, sprinkle in 20% long term, like sprinkle something in. And I don't, and I think that a lot of it is, Alex Ramosi talks about it. The S&P me versus S&P 500, right? The S&P 500 is, the 500 companies who do well in the United States. I mean, the returns are like 7 to 10%. So you put $1,000 in, you get 700, or you get like $700 back. But if you go put $1,000 into yourself, you're going to make way more because you're going to grow your skills, your mindset, and your value. And you're probably going to double, triple, quadruple your income, right? Like if somebody hired Selena as a coach, like it's game over. It literally is game over because you're going to double, triple, quadruple your income. And that's going to lead you into taking that short term investing into long term wealth. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's, it's just a fascinating thing. And you have to be open to coaching. That's the other thing, we talk about when we hire even just people on the team or anybody, you have to be hungry, humble, smart, and coachable.
Mm-hmm.
He added coachable because hungry,
Yes.
humble, smart came from the ideal team player from that book, but we added coachable because not everybody's coachable. Not everybody's open to the idea that they are coachable, but being coachable just means that you're open to the idea that there is more for you to learn. Right. And everybody has something to learn. Like I am still learning each and every day. I went to coach training last week and I'm always blessed to be surrounded by these amazing people from all over the country that have so much to still teach me. Rick's been in it for 43 years. I've been in it for 26, almost 27 years. And there's all these people I'm surrounded by that have done amazing things as well. And we still all learn from each other, which is a beautiful thing. We call it the wisdom of the crowd when we're in the room together, which is pretty incredible. But we're all still coachable. We all sit in that room and, we're all like this listening to each other. And we're like just taking it all in. And that's really important. You have to be willing to acknowledge that there's still so much for all of us to learn. I mean, every day I hear about something new that I haven't heard about in real estate. And I'm like, wow, I thought I'd heard it all. Like something happens and I'm like, oh, always something.
I definitely can appreciate that. I feel like I'm a nerd as well. Like yesterday, I was eating my dinner. I put on a YouTube video and I was like taking notes on because I like to study industries as well and just like what are their tactics? Like I want to see what their tactics are, what's their mindset. Maybe they have a cool formula, right? And I like to see what other people are doing in other scale in other like sales positions, wealth positions, pillar positions, like whatever vehicles there are in the world. Like I think that it's good for us to expose ourselves and understand like, okay, what are people doing that are winning at, 6, 7, 8, 9 figure positions? Like what are they doing? Like I want to learn because maybe we're not doing it in real estate and we need to. So I think it's important to just be coachable. Yes. I love
My
it.
husband says I'm the only one who watches TikTok for stuff on how to do things in Excel spreadsheets.
I watch it as well. So you
He's
are
like, what are you watching? I'm like, did you know you could do this in Excel spreadsheet? I'm like, did you know ChatGPT this? Like, I think there's just a lot to learn out there. And like we're learning so much about how we can utilize different tools for how to get smarter or more efficient at what we do, right? And like we use a virtual assistant. I'm in the middle of hiring another one right now just because I need a lot more support for all the different things I'm doing. And I think, there's just so much opportunity out there to systematize what we're doing. And not saying that we take the people side of things out, but there's so much that can be done in the background, right? We have to be interacting with people. That's really, really important. But there's a lot that could be done on the backside that could be handled by someone else. So, I always encourage people. I'm like, if you don't have an assistant or you can't afford an actual assistant in the office with you, check into a virtual assistant. They're very affordable. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone out there who's looking into it, please just keep communication so strong with a virtual assistant. It's very important for them to feel connected. And whenever you don't communicate with them regularly, that's usually where the breakdown happens, right? It's really important for them to feel like they're a part of something. So the communication is really key. And if I could give another piece of advice for training a virtual assistant, everything you do should be recorded via Zoom. Every single piece of training and create a library. So every time you do any kind of training, record it on Zoom, then save it into a Google Drive, name it whatever you just trained. That way, if anything ever doesn't work out and you have to hire another one, now you have it saved as whatever that is. Secondly, every time they go to do that activity, they can pull it up on one screen and do the activity on the other screen and pause it. It's a huge time savings. But those virtuals can help you with so much. Social media, entering things into the MLS for you. I mean, there's just like a ton of things. I have 7 different email addresses. I just want someone to check my email for me all day, like respond. That's like, and manage my calendars. Like, that's really like all I want. But most people don't realize how affordable that can be and how much help that can be for them. So that's something that I just wish more people kind of got into.
So I love, this is one of my favorite topics actually, is just really delegating and automating. So actually one of my favorite books is Buy Back Your Time. I don't know if I told you this before.
No,
If you've read this, if you haven't read, oh my God, you are gonna absolutely love Buy Back Your Time.
writing it down right now.
So Buy Back Your Time, they talk about the 4 C's. So camcorder, right? So basically Zoom. Camcorder, they talk about cadence, which is how frequent should you be doing it. Course, right? So where it's written out. Obviously, you don't need to write the course yourself. Your
No.
VA, when they're looking at a Zoom, they can create the course and you can come back. And then the fourth one, it's failing me right now, but I'm sure I'll come back to it. But yeah, there's the 4 C's of that. There's also the time audit, which you guys do well with Workman Success. I've seen yours. Something cool that he talks about in this book is where you're auditing your time and you're auditing your energy. So you're figuring out, okay, the last week you can do like green or red or yellow. It's up to you, or you can just do green, red. Like, okay, this was the income producing hour, so this is gonna be highlighted green. This, this was fluff. This was water cool. It's probably red. So am I automating, delegating, or just eliminating this from my schedule? So obviously, you spend an hour at the water cooler. Next Monday, you probably shouldn't be doing the same thing, right?
Gotcha.
And because this all comes from, okay, what is my time worth? Well, if I know that my intention is to earn $1 million this year, my time's worth $500 an hour. If I work a $40 week, right?
Right.
The time is worth minimum $500 an hour. So is my activity matching that, right? And if it's not, then it probably needs to get delegated. Well, people are like, okay, well, how much can I pay somebody? What's a reasonable cost, right? And he talks about in the book, it's called your buyback rate. So your buyback rate is a quarter of whatever your hour is worth. So if it's $100, then your hours are worth, then you can pay somebody up to $25 an hour to handle those tasks. So yeah, very, very, very great concepts, and I highly recommend. This is my favorite.
Oh, I'm picking it up now then.
Yeah. So Who Not How.
Oh, I love that. I love that book.
Who Not How and Buy Back Your Time, I think in conjunction with each other, they're absolutely amazing, because you start realizing, okay, how much is my time worth? Okay, where do I need to focus? All right, am I auditing my time? Am I auditing the activities I'm doing? Like, do I feel a lot of energy when I'm doing it? Because for me, right, like, can I crush the real estate? Yeah, I can crush sales, negotiations, I can do all of that, but it doesn't give me the same energy as, investing into an agent who's growing, right? I get more energy in helping someone grow and implement their plans and helping them be accountable. Like, that gives me a lot of energy.
Right.
It's not at the level where I'm getting paid the same as a salesperson. However, I know in the long run, it's gonna overlap it. But it's important. It's gonna be interesting once you see, like, okay, this is high energy, this is high income, this is high energy, low income, and you're gonna be like, okay. And there's also 4 different quadrants. You'll see it when you read the book, but it's gonna be very amazing for you. And I would say, like, read 1 chapter a week, and then whatever that is, and it's gonna help you a lot, because you don't want to rush through. That's not a book you want to rush through, because there's a lot of actionable items. I think he does like 5 buyback principles every single chapter, and it'll literally transform everything for you. Like, it really does.
I love it.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Well,
It's an interesting concept.
yeah, a lot of interesting concepts. I share some of them. I think I've shared some of them on social media, but these are some of these things that I'm learning from, like, Dan Martell, Alex Ramosi, like some of the other leaders as entrepreneurs that are on social media. Like, I'm like, these are all really amazing concepts. How can I apply them and then teach them? Like, that's my biggest thing, is as soon as I learn something, I need to go teach somebody what I just learned. And that's how I'm starting to master some of these concepts or ideas, or, I'm starting to really embody them, so that way I can become what that book preaches, or whatever those principles are teaching. And that's how I'm growing at a high level. Because I had somebody who was following me from like a couple brokerages ago. She's like, dude, how are you growing so fast? I'm like, literally, this is my secret, an hour to 2 hours a day minimum, probably on average. Some days maybe there's like days I will take off, but most of the time I'm listening to something that's going to grow my mind. Like, and I don't need the whole 60 minutes. There might be one or two things that I catch, and I'm like, oh wow, I need that. Like that's a part of my life now. And that's how I evolved so quickly.
That's incredible. We call it like we talk about doing the 3-2-1 at Workman. It's like talk to 3 new people every day.
Mhm.
Try to convert 2 people into a lead and then learn 1 new thing every day. And it can
Yes.
be like 1 big thing, it could be 1 little thing. It doesn't really matter. But most people always forget to do the 1 new thing. Like the 1 new thing. And I'm like, oh, that 1 new thing is incredible.
The
Like,
one new thing is everything because it's you working on your business versus in it, and you
yeah.
don't get to evolve if you're never working on it. So there was 2 other questions I want to ask you before we get out of here. I know we're getting short on time. So, one was if I was a new agent, what would be cool 30, 60, 90, or like what would be an ideal like first few steps that they should take? Because I love BAM and SLAM. I like AM. So, like, what would you say they should do?
Okay, such a great question. Well, the first thing I would tell you, and this is top secret, but not so top secret because we're about to announce it at Build. I would tell you to enroll in the class. I'm just getting ready to start. It's a non-workman class. I just created it myself, and it's called Activate. Activate. Yep. So we'll be announcing it whenever we're at Build at our private event that we're holding on Monday. It was because I wanted something that got people into action even faster. So it'll be a 2-day class that I'm teaching, and it is for people who are not currently in any production. It'll be 2 days of getting them out there. And we realized that we had 3,000 people in our organization, and 1,500 of them have not produced anything this year to date. And I was like, 6-week class or 13-week class is too long. I want people like out there. And it's designed literally to get them a listing presentation, a buyer presentation, their top 50, their sphere of influence, their 4 pillars, their business plan in place in 2 days. And then they have a follow-up for 30 straight days with daily success habits and huddles with me.
Oh, like
Like,
that's perfect. Everything you just said.
like there's like no excuses. It's
Yeah.
like I'm just like, you're gonna hit the ground running, and like I just want you to go out there and work for like 30 days, and like the activities will just equal the results. Like
Mm.
literally that's all I want. So it's like kind of impossible to not have a piece of business after the end of the 30 days. And that's the goal, is like if you just do the activities without questioning it, literally without questioning it after those 2 days of that class, it's almost impossible to
Yeah.
not have at least 1 piece of business at the end of the 30 days. So that would be my advice, is to take something like that and commit to it without question. Literally don't question it. Don't come with resistance. Just say, I'm going to do it, and trust the system, and know that at the end of that, it's nearly impossible to not have a piece of business.
Yeah. That I absolutely love that concept, and that sounds like an amazing class because I think a lot of times agents are fearful. Oh, I don't have a listing presentation or a buyer presentation. I don't have it. No, here you go. Here's a slideshow.
You will literally have it.
They have it. So I need you to go make some phone calls, knock on doors, hope
Yep.
the house, like whatever it is. I need you to go do that because I have the same mindset around retention as well. Because I think in mine, I only have well, I don't have 3,000 people, so not comparable. But I have one person that does a freaking deal. So I thought about that as well because I was in leadership with KW before. And I was like, all right, well, I know that I need to get people into production and they got to stay in production for retention. That's a natural retention element. So I'm just like, all right, like what's the culture need to be? What does accountability look like? Like what needs to be in place so that way you come here, you're learning, you're growing, you're executing, and everything's just happening for you. So
Yep.
I don't have to worry about you walking out the back door to, I don't know where you're going, but you're probably not going to find it there if you didn't find it here. Like that's how big I want it to be. So actually today I met with Leo, Gabriel, Francis, like I met with a lot of our upline because I wanted to come together as a unit and present this as one big group. Like, hey, we have all of this,
Yeah.
not just me. And that's what people don't understand at EXP is like, no, you have 7 people that are
Yeah. A lot of
financially
people.
interested in you. Like we are financially interested. All of us want you to be successful, but we also have to show them like, hey, this is the culture that we have. And I think that sometimes we don't do the best job of showing what our culture is and what tools and resources we have. So I love that, the Activate class. So for that, is that something that you're going, well, I guess we'll wait till that's announced.
It's coming.
And then, you know what, maybe we should do a follow-up one, because we didn't get into workman success, and I really wanted to talk about workman success.
We could do another one.
So I definitely want to get into that. So that's okay. We can call it, because I got to get into another meeting after this. So any other final words or any words of wisdom that you can give to somebody listening right now? Maybe an agent is doing 1 deal or 2 deals a month and they want to bump it up. Like, what kind of wisdom do you want to leave them with?
I definitely do. I would say, do not let what people are saying about the market get intruded into your mindset right now, because it has nothing to do with it. Literally. And don't be looking for some secret sauce. Everybody keeps asking, what's the secret sauce? Let me tell you what the secret sauce is. It's you. Okay. So whatever you did to get that other deal, do more of it. You know, everyone comes to me and they're like, oh, I want to buy more leads. I want to go do this thing. Figure out what the thing is that you're good at. If it's open houses, do more open houses. If it's that you're door knocking and you're great at that, and do that. Okay. I tell everybody, go in and look at your past sales, and whatever you did that got you the most past sales, go do more of that. That's the secret sauce. Okay. That is it. You are the secret sauce. That is the secret right now. Do the thing that you're already good at. Don't, for the love of all that's holy, don't go out and buy leads. Okay. Like, you are the secret. Just go do more of it. People love just seeing who people are naturally. And when you start to spread yourself thin and you start to go do these other things that aren't natural to you, it kind of shows. So do the thing that you're already good at. And then people are like, wow, they're really good at that. And then they're attracted to it. So just go do that thing.
Love it. Love it. Because the more relationships you have, the more opportunities you have, and the more opportunities you have, the more escrows that you're going to
That's
get.
it. You're just attracting it to you.
Yeah, you already have it. So very cool. Last question. If you had to recommend a book, what would it be? And what is your quote or saying that you're living by in Q3?
Oh my goodness. Okay, book right now. Ooh, that's really tough. Oh man.
You
There's so
recommended
many.
one earlier.
Which one?
You recommended one earlier. I think it's the 5 principles of team, something about team.
Oh, the ideal team player. Really,
Yeah.
really good one if you're thinking about a team. Okay, so that one's really good. And it talks about only getting people who are hungry, humble, and smart. And I would add coachable. And it's all about hiring really slow and firing fast. So that is an excellent book if you're looking to read one. And then quote. This is an oldie but a goodie for me. He who hesitates meditates from a horizontal position.
I like it. Okay.
Okay. So it's really old. You got to think about it for a second. He who hesitates meditates from a horizontal position.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate. My word for the year is leap. So I'm doing a lot of leaping this year. I'm not hesitating. I'm doing a lot of leaping. Picked up and moved from South Carolina to California. Lots of leaping. No hesitating.
It's bamboo season. That's what I call it. Bamboo season. It's a season of growth and evolving to that future version of yourself. I love it. So
That's it.
awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to have you on again for part 2. We'll get into workman success. Maybe we'll talk about the market. We'll talk about some other things, but yeah, a lot of value. So I can't wait to have you on again.
You bet. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.